Hi.
Hey. Hi.
Thank you all for being here. Thank you to Bonnie. Thank you everybody who made this possible. This is a lovely space, and I'm glad to be here reading with Emily today. So I'm going to start with some newer poems because, like a lot of writers, I'm most excited about my new stuff. Still excited about the old, and I have books for sale back here. They're $10 each. That's a Northeast special sale for you. So the poems I'm going to read, just a few from my new manuscript. The manuscript is called The Rest of Her Days. And they're poems that are confessional in nature about my own life, because my last 3 books were persona poems, and 2 poets who I really admire told me I should stop writing in persona and write about my own life. And at first I was taken back, but then I decided to take their advice, and I have found that working on these poems has proved to be important for me, and also all of the poems that I'm going to be reading today, including 70% of the manuscript have been published. So obviously there's an audience for these poems about my real life. So the first poem is called The Year of Milk, and it just came out from a lit mag last month. The Year of Milk. I aimed my breast like a torpedo into her mouth. If the latch went wrong, my nipples bloomed blisters, and she would not drain the breast. I cried each time she had to eat. Most feedings took hours, my arms frozen, afraid to change position. Her hungry grunts and snorts like an unforgiving beast that needed me to give and give. I smelled like sour milk. I leaked through the nursing pads, the bra, the extra-large maternity shirt. Her breath smelled like sour milk. And when she spit up, both of us soaked. We could have raised mushrooms, could have clothed ourselves in mildew. We were wet. The fever came in the middle of the night with my breasts engorged, inflamed. The burn of all that milk I still had to let down. She cried. There was no escape, so I sat down in that pink nursery chair and fed her. The fever never went away. Night and day she had to eat, and when not eating, I had to hold her against my left side and pat her butt gently with my right hand. Everything was milk and sweat. The moment I stopped the taps, she would wail like a siren, tattling that I had failed. Her wet cheek grew yeast, so her skin split open along with my nipples, and everything was pink, bloody milk, bonding us there. There was that breast pump, breathing in and out, a ventilator, a prison. And there was her father, going off to work, but really to screw his whore in a hotel room at noon on a Tuesday while I played cow and Dairy Maid. But I didn't know that then. So I got rid of him. This next poem is about my daughter's food allergy. She has an allergy to peanuts. And my best friend, unfortunately, had a bad decision, and so I wrote this poem. It's called Subtraction by Addition. When I called her friend, then sister, I meant those 6-letter labels. When she gave me a gaudy BFF necklace with little beads that my daughter gnawed on, I wore it with pride, despite my dislike for jewelry. When I traveled 8 hours with my 2 children and my 3rd husband to visit her family in her new home in her new town, I tried to ignore the dirty black socks in the doorway, the cup of lumpy milk sitting on the bookshelf, the used tissues collected in the corner of the living room, the near-empty fridge, except for beer and string cheese, the unopened mail on the bathroom counter, the crusty forks and plates covering the kitchen table, the lack of AC, The realization that she knew we were coming, we had planned the trip for months, and yet she hadn't even tried to clean. But that yellow, ancient vacuum sat in the middle of the hall as if to proclaim, she tried, she tried. When we awoke the next morning, my children and her children were hungry. I suggested cereal, a 6-letter word. I had known her 10 years. I went to dress only to find she had given my daughter a breakfast bar. 6 letters, peanut, allergy information, contains peanuts. My daughter was almost 8 years old. My friend had known her since the day she was cut from my belly. 6 pounds, 7 ounces. I carry 1 EpiPen in my purse at all times. If this had all turned out differently, I might be ordering my daughter's tombstone. 5 letters, 6 letters, 7 letters. Am I exaggerating? Let's add up the minutes I held down my 6-month-old baby as the allergy doctor pricked her fat thighs and the bumps swelled and reddened, to the nights I worried about peanut butter and jelly sandwiches at school, peanuts at the circus, the fair, the baseball game, peanut Halloween candy, the other kids' birthday parties I had to supervise to tell my daughter not to taste the cake. It's not worth the risk. The other parents saying, I'm not sure, I don't know, can't she just have a taste? Add the time I walked my daughter through the aisles at Walgreens and pointed out the peanuts, the peanut butter, the Reese's Pieces, the Snickers, the breakfast bars, and then nose to nose said, you have to be careful. You could die. That morning, my best friend told my daughter as she handed her the breakfast bar, peeking out of its wrapper, it's safe. It doesn't have peanuts. My daughter did not have her purple reading glasses on yet. It was 9 a.m. It takes a moment to read a package. I can attempt to count the articles posted on Twitter of children and young adults who die each year due to food allergies. The 21-year-old promising athlete in Ohio who ate 1 bite of a homemade cookie at a party. Just 1 bite. 2 EpiPens later, she died. Add the pulsating fear in my head, chest, hands as I grabbed my daughter from the couch to brush her teeth, scrape her tongue with my nails, scrub her hands and face, and drive her to the ER where we stayed for hours. Later, when my friend says sorry, as I pack up our suitcases, head for the car, and straight to a hotel, I'm tempted to cuss, to slap, to raise hell, but instead, I say nothing. A month later, I consider writing an email, but there are not enough letters for what we have lost. And apparently, she can't read anyway. My friends read that poem. We made up. People make mistakes, but even reading it, I still get that feeling of panic.
Your daughter's okay?
She's okay.
After that
Yes.
episode?
Yes, after that. That was the last time that she's been exposed, thank God. Speaking of reading, I have a poem about my son, Pierce, and when he was learning to read. My 6-year-old son, Pierce, learns to read. What does this say? He asks over and over. Everywhere is a sign, a note that needs to be read. I read like breathing. Can't believe that once I had to focus on it. He says, what does this spell? E-R-E-R? Nothing, I say. Then realize he may take me literally. He says, P-I-E-C-E. Peace, like a piece of paper, I say. P-I-C-E. Nothing, I mean, and it goes on. When I point to a word, ask him what it is, and he doesn't know, he says, cow. It's his default. So there are cows everywhere. Every sign warns of cows. Every book mentions cows. And still, even though he's in school now, every night he sleeps with Moo Moo. given to him by Grandma D when he was a year old. We've had 6 moo-moos. I hide a spare on the top shelf of his closet. Last night we read a book together. The line was, "The noise pierced the air." Pierce didn't know his name was a verb. He is impressed, and so am I. I'm going to read one more from the new poems. So I've been married a few times, and I like to make fun of myself for it, so that's where this poem came from. And this one was published in The Lake. It's a lit mag from overseas, and I really like it. Look it up, The Lake. The Fourth Marriage. This was a mistake, but I silenced the doubts with opening gifts. Even without a registry, some felt so inclined to wrap presents, send cards and well wishes. Marrying a scarecrow is strange, but no one said a word as I dragged him up the aisle, then propped him against the faux pillar. The bouquet of irises and brown leaves set the stage for the vows. The pastor nodded the scarecrow's head, when appropriate. The kiss left dust and hay in my mouth. At the reception, we danced to slow 80s love ballads, and despite his floppiness and weathered clothes, my new husband enjoyed himself. His smile, stitched by a farmer's wife years ago, never faltered. I saved money by not buying him a ring. Instead, I purchased a new straw hat that tips forward, hiding his button eyes. Those eyes that stare, never closing or blinking. Those lips that stay silent. Oh, this man is a woman's dream. Never argues about a thing. Yet, I feel now, as I finish breakfast across the table from him, surrounded by ripped silver wrapping paper and empty pretty gift bags, that something's missing. As with all the men I have married, I must carry him around, and I have grown too weak, or he has grown too heavy. Thanks. So that too heavy line goes into my first book, which is Too Heavy to Carry. I guess I'm still obsessed with this idea of something too heavy to carry, so I keep writing poems about it. This was my first book that came out in 2014, and it's about a lot of things, but one thing I touched on, which I hoped at this point wouldn't be an issue, was the pipeline they keep wanting to put through Nebraska. And I wish that this poem was obsolete, but it's still an issue, I guess. So the first poem I'm going to read is Water. I just want water. My friend says to drink smart water. What makes it smart? Is it that it's bottled and expensive and it's in pretty plastic? Is it that most folks cannot afford it? Is it that the water has a name that sounds like the word glacier? Or is it that the company has added electrolytes for taste, as if the water the earth provided didn't taste good enough? But we've destroyed all that water, haven't we? Almost all. And the last bit left, the aquifer, we want to drench, to douse with oil from a Trans-Canada pipeline. Oh yes, dear ones, this water is so smart after all. So I mentioned before I was writing persona. These are not persona poems, but the reason I got away from writing about my own life was because I was worried about my family and friends and what they would think. But luckily, my dad is really cool, and he read this book, and my mom doesn't read, so it all worked out. So this has a reading title. With no father, I shrunk to the size of an unlucky penny. When I was 16, mother was too busy with her young blonde boyfriend. So I learned from my friend Maria how to do laundry. Whites and darks are separate. Maria taught me scrambled eggs and grilled cheese. Her grandma would invite me to dinner almost every week. Otherwise, I ate alone. Mom visited me monthly with a few bags of groceries and $20 bills left on the coffee table. Then she would disappear again. Sometimes I'd go see her at the grocery store where she worked. She wouldn't respond to Mother, so I called, "Juanita," and her head would turn like a cash register's drawer flying open at the touch of the orange button. My high school classmates who worked there said that she must be a great mom. I would shrug. She thought she could leave me like one does money in an account, where I'd grow, mature, and incur interest, ready to be cashed out whenever she felt like it. He thought he could deposit a monthly check and be done with it. So I was a little bitter about my mom, but hearing more about her childhood kind of explains why she is the way that she is. And the next poem is about my grandfather, her father, who I never got to meet because he died before I was born. So the title of this is long because I wanted to have my grandfather's whole name in there. For my papa, Alfonso Alberto Lopez de Nada, from Tabasco, Zacatecas. Weighted down by 8 or 9 trunks, the elephant tree, sluggish and bent, in need of more than one leg, swayed. And it was here that Abel rested in its shade, decided to leave his hometown, his sisters. He never talked of the trees, the land, the tinkering in shops to earn flour and corn. Perhaps Chicago, with its taller buildings, pool halls, beef sandwiches, Italian women from Michigan helped. But how could he forget? The cactus would bristle at night when the wind plowed the land, when the stray dogs dug up the bones of the dead. He would holler at them, but they'd return again. So they resorted to cremation. Jesus would resurrect without bone or flesh, just ashes and white flecks. Abel couldn't forget. Maybe that's why he drank his beer and whiskey. And when he didn't have cash, he drank his wife's perfume and was found in the bathroom one night with the rubbing alcohol. So she had to hide anything, then have him admitted to the hospital, missed his only child's high school graduation, the first in the family. Abel never taught her Spanish, snapped at her when she tried to mimic him and his friends. He died when she was 28. He never saw her broken hearts or his only grandchild, me. Abel, when that elephant tree stretches out to the stars, that same tree, let's imagine it still stands there. Do you reach down from the sky to grasp its trunk, to slide back to Zacatecas, to cross the river, to visit me? This is my newest chapbook. It's the Book of Levinson. And I'll just briefly tell you that Bob Levinson is an American who disappeared almost 12 years ago on the island of Kish, which is off of Iran. And the story that came out when he first disappeared was that he was a private investigator looking into smuggling cigarettes or something. But finally, a few years ago, it came out the truth that he was working for the CIA. Bob had worked with the FBI for over 30 years, has 7 children and a wife. And I guess because he had those 7 kids and they were all starting to go to college and getting older, he needed more money, so he signed up this contract for the CIA. He went there, he stayed one night, and he never returned. So I heard about this story in 2007 when he first disappeared, and I named my daughter Levin. This is Bob Levinson. Partly because of him, because I felt some kind of connection to that story. My father was in the Air Force for 30 years, part of the reason I didn't see him a lot. And also, I felt that Bob wasn't receiving enough attention. I thought it should be on all the news channels. There's an American, he's been taken. What happened to him? Are we gonna get him back? And I just didn't see a lot of coverage on it. So I reached out to 2 of his adult children, they're all adults now, and I began correspondence via email. And I'm really lucky that his son David was willing to talk with me on the phone, to email with me, to share stories, so that I could give Bob a voice, because that was my goal, because he's without a voice. So the first poem I'm going to share from the book is about when he's first taken. I mean, no one's really sure what happened, but I tried to put myself in that place. Tremor. I can't stop trembling. I clench my jaw, my fists. The men believe it's a tremor and insist I must be older. My paperwork lies. Tectonic plates slip and collide inside my chest. I need to appear calm, but the aftershocks give me away. I drip sweat. The fault ruptures. So, in 2010, his family received a video from the people who are holding Bob. And this video is now on YouTube, and there was a little bit of coverage of it, but not much. And so I wanted to share the words from that video from Bob. So this is Bob from that video in 2010. I have been held here for 3.5 years. I am not in very good health. I am running very quickly out of diabetes medicine. I have been treated well. I need the help of the United States government to answer the requests of the group that has held me for 3.5 years. And please help me get home. 33 years of service to the United States deserves something. Please help me. Unfortunately, the people who've held Bob, or continue to hold him, they're not even sure if he's still alive, have never made a request, or they're not sure which group has him or even which country he's in right now. So that, this video of him begging, please help me, and his family has no way to know who has him, what to do, what they want. It's really sad. 2 years later, after that video, pictures were sent to the family. And these pictures have Bob looking much different than he did when he disappeared. He was a clean-cut man, a little bit overweight. He was in his 60s. And in these pictures, he's wearing an orange jumpsuit. He's very thin. He has a wild hair and beard. And he just looks totally different. And they made him hold up signs in these photographs. And so I took the words from those signs and I wrote poems. The first sign said, "Why you cannot help me." I hold up signs in broken English. They ask if they're right. I nod yes. No reason to correct their grammar. The distress signal will not be answered. The transmission static. The operator blind and deaf. The flash bright. The next sign said, "4th year, you can't or you don't want." Again, the signs don't make a lot of sense. In this piece, I mentioned someone named Anne. Anne was the CIA analyst who sent Bob on this mission, and once it finally came out what happened, she was terminated from her position, and now she owns a yoga studio and she has a blog. So, of course, I looked into that blog and took an image from it. So the sign here says, 4th year, you can't or you don't want. Maybe they can't. Maybe they don't want. Maybe they forgot my name. When I blink, I see my name flash on the back of my eyelids. I remind myself, that is my name. I can, I want. The blood thunders in my ears, and the flow of tears has ceased. Anne, you can't? Anne, you don't want? Leave me here planted in dark mud and muck to find the light. I bloom. So I didn't want all the poems to be about Bob in captivity. I wanted to focus on some of the stories that his family has shared. And so this one's called Pink Shirts. And it really sounds like, according to his family, that he was a fun guy, he was interesting. So this is Pink Shirts. And he's working in the FBI in Miami at this point. On Thursdays in Miami, I wore pink shirts, button-down, polo, I didn't care. At first I got funny looks, but then it caught on, and everyone in the office was a good sport. Hope says my family, my friends, a sea of pink with pink candles, pink flames, stand vigil at the White House with pink signs written with pink markers, bring Bob home. I squeeze my index finger until it turns purplish pink and hold that finger up to my temple, a gun. Salute the ceiling, hail an imaginary cab, ask for the check. So in some of the poems, I'm writing in Bob's voice, obviously, but the you in the next couple of poems is his wife. So his wife, Christine, has worked tirelessly over the last 12 years to try to bring Bob home. She's been to Iran. She's been on the TV over there. She's gone to the White House. They have a website, helpboblevinson.com. The entire family has worked on it, but I really felt for Christine, and I have not spoken with her or anything. I've talked with the kids. But I can only imagine what Bob would be feeling about his wife and what she would be feeling missing him. And she's stayed in the same house in Florida, has the same phone number, just in case he ever can come home. So this is the bird. The partridge repeats his call. I imagine scribbling a letter on toilet paper and tying it to the bird's leg with a cherry stem. Then it flutters away to deliver that note to you. You're sitting on the patio, watching the sunset, listening for that mockingbird that trills and whistles as my bird flits to the fence. It pecks its leg free of the stamp-sized package it has carried across thousands of miles, and our grandson catches it and runs the note to you. As it unfolds, you know. You do not have to read the words to know. Thank you. Most of these poems are pretty short. So the next one's titled Water, and again, it's just imagining a sign that he could give her. Water. When you see the glare of plastic litter in the tide, it's my message in a bottle. Words scrawled on a torn book cover, ink blurred by water. When you see the flash of silver in a wave, it's me, gasping for breath in the ocean as the water pulls me under. I'm reaching for you. Can you see my fingers just above the blue? And then the last section of this chapbook I wrote in my own voice, so all the poems are in Bob's voice, but then I wanted to take a step back to kind of examine why I was interested in Bob Levinson, but also how it's affected me, because it has changed the way that I view the world. So this is the last poem I'm going to read today, and it's The Haunted House, October 2014. I squeeze my husband's hand as I follow his black coat around dark corners. Cobwebs stick to my hair. Middle schoolers push my back. Hurry, hurry. The floor slants up, and we stumble, catch ourselves against plastic axes, skeletons, giant wire spiders. Hallways lead to rooms. One with a grown woman in pigtails cradling a decapitated baby doll. Dozens of doll heads hang from the ceiling. Another room, a butcher in a blood-splattered apron cuts the air with a cleaver. Rubber intestines ooze on the counter. Down the hall, carnival music squeals as a demented clown chases us to the stairs that lead to another scene. The man in an orange jumpsuit, shackled to the wall, his white hair and beard covered in dirt. He moans, "I think of you." An actor dressed in black approaches the prisoner, screams in his face, wielding a chainsaw. The white beard hangs his head in despair. I have to look away. We paid to enter this place. Thank you. And again, I have books for sale after the reading, $10 each. Thank you.
Thank you, Kat. And now we have Emily Borgmann. And she is a poet, essayist, and first-generation college graduate who works as a writing educator in her community. She is the recipient of the Academy of American Poets Prize and was awarded a 2018 Individual Artist Fellowship in Literature from the Nebraska Arts Council. Emily's poems, essays, and book reviews have appeared or are forthcoming in such journals as Copper Nickel, The Laurel Review, Green Mountains Review, Salamander, and Alligator Juniper. Please help me welcome Emily Borgmann.
I need a whole chair for my water. And this is an elaborate prop. I was just saying to my family that Kat and I worked out. It's not really, it's a big bottle of water. All right. Thank you to Bonnie for planning this. And I already hugged Neil, but I took my first creative writing classes here in Northeast. And then there were no more writing classes for me to take. I don't think I attended my other classes very well because I don't recognize any of these buildings. But I did like creative writing a lot, and so then Neil told me there was a bachelor's of fine arts in Omaha and I should move there. Or I needed to move there. I had just gotten sober, and so I did. And so I went there, and then I got my master's degree, and now I teach there. So life just happens that way. So, I mean, whatever. I mean, anything's possible, or maybe poetry's a terrible career track. Either way. I'm going to read some poems, and I'm also going to read, for the first time, from a memoir I've been writing for about 3 years. And I'm going to start with some poems so that things aren't so long. Can you, back there, all of you, can you hear okay? Give me a thumbs up, thank you. All right. This first poem is called Last Words. And breathing as it starts is sometimes difficult for me. I have a hard time, like, oxygenating, taking a deep breath. So, last words. Breathing was so often difficult. I needed to work so hard at that, and now it's the last thing you'll watch leave me, my breath. So please be glad when my final exhale comes. Oh, how I've had to study this, an automatic act this world complicates. If it were a ribbon threading between my ribs, or fog hovering above my open mouth every morning, the single thing you pull toward you, give away, what can't be taken, you give it. You're broke, naked, starving, alone, and you give, alive as ever. So listen with me, I'm almost a wind chime. Just trying to work out the mic, all right. The second poem is called Picture from the Diner. And it's a photo. It's about a photo. How everybody shows up in the diner and you can get whatever you want at any time of day, right? Like you do that here, like Village Inn, right? VI, do you call it that still? None of the students. Oh my God, things have changed. All right. Well, you know, a diner. All right. You walk past the diner on the corner where everyone looks the same, where your family even has the same pancakes. You recall a morning that you waited for pancakes promised, Remember what broke in the night to set an empty table. Everyone comes in the door with the same need, finds its name on a laminated menu, and a cook who could griddle orders in his sleep. You eat eggs the way your mother makes them until you have to decide if you're capable of poaching. You'd have to watch time so closely, or know by sight how to retain such a tender shape. How much bright yellow streaming from heart can you stand? Should you ask for it the way you like?
I love the clapping. I love a clapping audience.
All right, so maybe have you had to write in poetry class? Raise your hand on Ars Poetica. Everybody just raised their hand for me. You're so great. Okay, but now with the question, have you? About writing poems? Okay, so an Ars Poetica is a poem about writing. This is an Ars Poetica, and it's called Finding Time. What is beyond the door? All those cities to climb past, with feet soft as ocean before you can knock. How long will you pace, afeared, this side of ready for new lanterns? How long can you keep thirsty, then fill only on your mouth moving against the dark? As if you possess a mere longing for absence, the root-burn track of nothing. Resignation does not fit the code of wonder. Heaps of mountains will always cover the keyhole. Legions of hammers will fly from overhead, and you will not nail the cheery sign of your own welcome to drag you past the doorframe. The cost of desire is a stomach full of desire. You eat, you want, and you are lucky with hunger. If the full running speed you can reach at waking is, by the night hour, reduced by a power of 3, questions still break you in half, like your own breath, held. There is never enough time, and you will break in half. There will be worlds between what you want to sing and what you can. Still, you step over your own body, you step over the broken bicycles of your children, begin to learn to make repairs. Use your hands to sound the foghorn of your own attention, which is pitiful and merciless both. But you only have your hunger's life to bright your belly into that next world. How long does it take to open a door? Okay, there's going to be so much water I'm going to drink right now because I'm going to read from this memoir. So, I'm writing a memoir that I started when my mom was ill. She was ill for a long time, but I started it a year before she died. I didn't know she was going to die. So what I'm about to read you is the prologue, that note at the beginning, right? And I don't think I need to say anything else or we won't know if it's effective, right? Because it's the prologue. So you can tell me at dinner maybe, those of you who are coming to dinner, if it made you want to read more. That's kind of the goal. But we only know what we know when we know it. And I grew up, my hair is all over this podium, you guys. I grew up with a lot of fear, and so I tried to write about that. And yeah, my mother and I had kind of a difficult love story, but we had a love. So the name of the memoir in progress is I'm Loving You Wrong. My mother and my sister and my cousin Tina and I are standing again in 3 feet of algae water, clotted green, with a slither of fishy bodies. They're tiny compared to the fish in the lake where we go swimming, and I can't count if there are more alive ones or more that are grayed and decaying. I'm 11 and my sister is 14. Our cousin is 18 and wants to swim, so she's here to help. The water of our above-ground pool is steaming because May got extra hot this year, and we put off bringing the pool back to life until mid-June. We left it alone at the end of last fall, so now we have to wade in its rot, which smells like a year of garbage. The heat burned through mold and fungus and animal carcasses. Nebraska weather is very cold and very hot, from 20 below to 110 degrees Fahrenheit, so a lot grows in standing water. We find dead birds when we're sloshing around in the pool, cleaning it, and once we find a dead. All of it goes over the edge, because the way we clean it is by disappearing into it, emptying the water out onto the grass of our yard by slinging thousands of giant buckets full over the rim. Then the fish dry in the ring of gravel around the pool, soft fruit with tiny bones inside. The first swimming week of summer, I step on a fish and I shriek. I climb the ladder over the pool's edge, lowering myself into its body. Here, swallowed, I'm finally a small fish. The 5-gallon buckets first held pickles to supply the bar and grill where my mother bartends and cooks. Holding back our vomit at this strange backyard sludge lake we're chest deep in is how we get to swim all alone in the backyard at night, past public pool hours, and all day without men or boys yelling at us, "Wanna fuck, slut?" We have to hurry away when they say this, wrapping ourselves up to our chins with our oversized towels. Something about my 250-pound body, grown larger than a child should be, makes men talk to me like a woman in a bar, anywhere I go. I don't think it's safe for us, for my mother or my sister or my cousin, to stand here in this water. I don't understand evolution, but fish have grown in here over the winter somehow, and my body is mostly water. I learned that in school. I'm afraid of what might happen between my legs to make me into a sea monster or unable to have babies. I don't know when something is too dirty to stand in. I don't believe in evolution, and I report this to my father, who is leading me along the sidewalk at Ashfall Fossil Beds in northeast Nebraska, where they've started recovering fossils from the volcanic ash bed. Dates and names of prehistoric eras are printed along a sidewalk, winding through the historical park, which was very small in 1991 and had just opened when the first skeletons were uncovered in the rhino barn. My father walks with his head down, reading. His hair is golden in the sunlight. Mine is too. People are always telling me I don't look like my mother, who has dark brown hair and brown eyes. They ask me, "Who do you belong to?" And I tell them the bartender, and then they know, since they all spend their nights in one of the 2 bars at the center of town. This trip is the only one my father has taken my sister and me on without our mother, I think, and it's only an hour's drive from our house in Hoskins, a village of 350 people. My mother reminds my father of this before we leave, that he only has to take care of us in the car for an hour each way. I'm 10 years old and my sister Abby is 13. Though my father is mostly gone from us, he's taking care of us, building Super 8 motels all over the Midwest and the South. He flies home on his construction crew's small plane almost every other weekend. He leaves again in under 48 hours. No one at my school has seen my father much, and so they ask what he looks like. I tell them his arms are longer than my legs, which is true, and that he looks like Hulk Hogan, the professional wrestler, who is also very tan with a yellow handlebar mustache. But Hulk Hogan is tan from a tanning bed, like my mother, not from working in the sun roofing, like my father. Science people are really excited about these fossils. I hear them talk about it on the PBS station. But my sister and I are brought up in the religion of our mother, the Wisconsin Evangelical Synod kind of Lutheran, and we go to school from kindergarten to 8th grade, all in 2 small rooms inside the church building. My mother's religion teaches us that the world has only existed for 6,000 years. My father, who is Catholic, is trying to teach us about evolution. My mother shouts at the gang of us leaving the house, "It's all bullshit," So I say, this isn't real, as I walk around staring down into the dirt, afraid of what it will mean if I discover animal bones. My sister is friends with our dad and talks to him all by herself, the way I can't. My mother tells her friends that I run away from every man who tries to touch me, not just their husbands. My sister pushes me off the sidewalk and runs to catch up with our father, asking him questions our mother can't answer. The swimming pool in the backyard of the second of two houses my family lives in is 4 feet deep, 30 feet long, and a very heavy blue tarp lines the inside. The sides are aluminum with white metal support beams. So every spring, starting with the year I'm 9, we have to find a way to clean the pool. My mother orders the $6,000 pool from the Sears catalog without telling my father. Most people buy a winter cover, which keeps out rain and keeps the tarp inside bright blue, not sun-faded and green from algae stains like ours. I don't know why we don't have this kind of cover, except that it was extra money to buy it. And when my mother decides about purchases, and she always decides, she gets what she wants, but sometimes leaves off the practical parts like maintenance and warranties. Probably this is why we sometimes don't have things like medical insurance. What I'm most proud of is that I can turn 6 somersaults without coming up for air, and later, that I can swim along the whole perimeter without breathing, one hand brushing the pool's blue belly to guide me. Being able to hold my breath is the fact of myself I offer at school when we have to talk about our summers. How we clean the pool is a way I can tell you about my mother, about growing up in a house where I was afraid. I left when I was 13, and my parents let me go away to my church's affiliated boarding school for high school. The school was 2 hours away, and I would come home most weekends, about as much as my father. To tell you about the rotting water is to tell you the way my mother and I loved each other, which was wrong. My mother might not be a good enough parent for you, and I'm a terrible daughter. But my mother did the best she could, and so did I. And we weren't enough for each other. And I couldn't tell myself apart from her. I rocked myself to sleep holding on to that, twin-bodied. A teacher once asked me how the speaker of my poems learned to love like that, the way she does later in the book of poems we were talking about. How does the speaker get from the first page to the last? I only know my own way to love and how I learned it, which has mostly felt like surfacing from drowning in that filthy water, touching the bottom of my childhood pool, then somersaulting back to the surface in time to gasp breath. I'm 35 now and still deciding, after all my time in 12-step meetings taking ownership of how I'm flawed at my core and programmed to self-destruct, and an addict to any sweet feeling no matter the form its sugar takes, if failure is in my bones, in my body, if I need a God to take this affliction from me, and if the God is one of fossils. If God made me, why would I need to ask a God to make me better? A better daughter to my mother, the God who actually made me? And if Adam's rib made Eve, the way my mother's religion tells me it happened, why don't they name Eve the one who begat me? And why don't they call the creative rib the poison? One day, after all this suffering, the pastor tells me, I won't have a body, and I'll have put one in the ground. One day soon, I'll have buried my mother, and I'll stand above ground, wondering where we went. Thank you again, a clapping audience. It's so nice. All right, so I haven't read from that before. It took a while. I'm going to skip some poems here and find something I want to read. And maybe your teachers have told you, I got told this, to avoid the big subjects. Like, don't write about God and sex and death and love, and I don't know what to tell you, just do it anyway. Just find your particular way to talk about it. Because, I mean, what else is there, right? Like, so maybe this is the last poem I read, because I think I'm almost out of time. I've read this poem a couple times, but it's also about my mother, so if you're obsessed with your mother, it's okay, just write poems about it, just do it. This is called Amputation Suite, or Why Jesus Wept. You go to your mother as the first part of her body is buried. No, as the first part of her body is taken, maybe freeze her. You go and wonder how far away you really moved. Sometimes a flock of your childhood neighbors dies at once, separated by walls in the same hospital where they were born. There's a kind of person who finds one home in life, never wanders from that solid house, that rich soil. Then the pastor comes to usher them from this riot, murky night. He comes to read Bible verses. Your mother's pastor comes to ask about the amputation. In a flash, you are so much older, and you know the name of your mother's God, or what yours once was, which is kind of like knowing someone's maiden name in this very small town, which is a lot like wanting your mother's God to tidal wave her body with the force required to learn to walk again. Then your mother's pastor asks if he can read some Bible verses. She nods. Then the pastor reads from the book of John. He reads the shortest verse the Bible holds, and he tells your mother why Jesus wept. So the pastor says Jesus was going to raise Lazarus up in only maybe 30 minutes Bible time, but that he saw Mary weep, upset at Lazarus' absence, mad at Jesus for not saving her brother. Jesus wept because Mary thought she was losing Lazarus. He wept at the pain Mary held, even though he intended to undo it. Jesus' spirit was rough like your mother's hands used to be. Why Jesus wept doesn't matter to you until today. Jesus is not your Lord, God, Savior. Jesus is your mother's God, though, and you're here for her. So you, your mother, your sister, your father, you listen together to this Jesus story. Your mother's pastor says that God is almighty, that God doesn't give you more than you can handle. And instead of wanting to throw the pastor's Bible in the toxic waste bin, where things like your mother's foot now live, you want God to give to her, your mother. You want Jesus to see you weep in the family lounge, hospital quiet. And you want this big deal Redeemer of all fools, of all sinners, of all terrible daughters, and of mothers who hold their 20-year-old daughter's hand. You want suddenly so much for this terrible Bible time 30 minutes to pass, for your mother to walk you down the aisle at your wedding. You stop giving up. Hold your body stronger today. Set your shoulders back and promise God you'll take good care. You want your mother to come back to you like you drove back home to her today. She taught you to read so early and read you pizza and ordered pizza at midnight. But you've ruined so many things, and one of them, your own body. You want her to learn to walk again, to build the muscles. You want her 2 feet on the ground, one, her prosthesis, a better trick than water into wine. And you want to come back from 35 years of reckless spilling over your body's borders, from reckless spilling of your own saving, because you have lain in so many hospital beds. You collected your admission bracelets for a year once, until there were too many, and you got bored keeping track of emergencies. Tired of ghosting hospital halls, counting floor tiles. Halls where you wander like a sinner, like someone untethered from this world. You have to stop dying to start living inside the rest of your body. You want this for your mother too, but you can't give it to her any more than she can return it to you. You want the both of you to want so hard, to get sick on the fullness of desire for bodies so light they almost untether. For wildness you learn from her. You and your mother stopped drinking now. You and your mother both grew older a while. You and your mother are too familiar with hospitals and too strange to each other. This is the time when everyone is dying. They're dying in little pockets of a large hive. But you are living as much as you are dying. Every second, this is true. What else are you going to do with your mother's foot but thank your mother's God for calling it home? And what else are you going to do but stop crying? Because you stopped trying to tell your mother exactly who you are and kept wanting her to know. You see now that your mother might want to know you more than you risked telling her. And did you ever consider how this would go if you concentrated on getting to know exactly who your mother is? Your safe passage into this world? Thank you so much. Q&A. That says Q&A.
So I think we're open for questions, if anyone has any.
You can ask anything as long as it's really a question, not a comment. I like to say that. I heard that from someone.
You must be a teacher.
I heard it from another poet, actually, yeah. Yes.
What encouraged you to take risks in your writing?
Are you asking both of us? Kat, who are you asking? Both of Kat? What encouraged you to take risks is the question in your writing.
Do you have an answer for that?
Yeah, I'll say
Okay,
something.
go
I mean,
first.
I don't plan things clearly, other than this was a plan.
Yeah.
I think okay, so Kat has written several books that are persona poems. I don't know how to make things up. Terrible at it, terrible. I'm not a good liar, like today I thought I could come to my town where my dad would be and my sister would be, and maybe I should just read some really safe poems, like not what I just read. But I sort of like to lean into that. Like, if I'm afraid, I'm just gonna go there, because it's scarier to not do it for me. So that's, I guess, and also like, what is particular to you and what is really scary? I mean, that's really what you have that nobody else has. Like, nobody else has it, so.
Well, when I was younger, I wasn't scared of reactions or what people said or anything like that. And so now I'm getting back to writing about my own life away from the persona, and I guess at this point I just don't care what people think, because I wrote in persona and I got crap for that. So I'm just going to write what I enjoy and what I want to write, and if somebody doesn't like it, oh well. So that's where I'm at now.
More questions, you can ask anything, yes.
Is there anything you won't write about?
Are you asking me?
You know.
I feel like I just read something that made it.
Well, I know.
Yeah. Kat, I don't know.
There's something you want to avoid.
But there's not. I mean, I didn't bring any masturbation poems because my dad's here, but there's not. There's not. It's all been crossed off the list. So.
Well, my kids are only 14 and 11, and they're perfect right now, pretty much. But I don't think I would share writing if they end up having some challenges and things like that about them. But my mother and father, I'm an only child, they're free game. And my ex-husband's too bad. So, but yeah, my kids, I do write about them when they're little or really cute little things, but I don't write about serious stuff that involves my children. So.
I want to add something to that. I don't really need this microphone. I'm loud. It's just. So, I have this teacher, Jessica Henry Nelson. You should read her book. I'll repeat it at dinner if you want to know. But she says, like, if you're walking down a hallway, especially nonfiction, but poetry is often nonfiction, right? In your bedrooms at the end, like, what's yours is what happens in your bedroom. But like my sister's bedroom, that's not for me to talk about. That's just one way to look at it, but I find it the easiest explanation. Like, that's her stuff. So if I'm walking by and I see something, I feel like I have to do that walking thing. Like, I guess I could say I wonder what that was or whatever, but that's the only thing I guess I would consider that not my business. So nobody else's story is mine to tell.
It's a nice image.
Yeah.
So the challenging things that you write about, what you find the most challenging to write about, how do you tackle it? How do you confront it? And what's your process, I guess?
Sure.
Okay.
Well, the most challenging things that I've written about are some things that happened in my childhood and also in one of my marriages. So I just like to put on some Leonard Cohen and just write, free write, and not worry about what's coming out and just spend that time. I don't get to do that a lot though, because I work full time and I have these kids and this husband and all this crap. But when I get the chance, I just dive in. Now, back in the day when I was younger, I thought I had to be drunk to write. I thought it had to be 2 in the morning. I thought all these crazy things. Now, I'm able to get there a lot faster through practice. So I just, when I have that moment, I'm going to sit down and write. And I really don't have any prep to it, or I don't need like a ritual anymore. I'm just going to take that time to write. So for me, just whatever comes to mind comes out. And then of course I edit and revise, and I have a writer's group that I share with regularly. I don't know if I answered the question, but...
Okay, so when I was in school at UNO, where I went after Neil directed me or righted my ship or whatever metaphor, I wrote an essay and sent it out for publication. That was about time I had spent in psychiatric hospitals. And that's something that like a lot of people still don't talk about, right? We don't talk about things like being psychotic and all of that. And it got published. It was the finalist in a contest, and I was like, what? First of all. And second, after that, I thought like there was nothing scary left in like the world. I was like, I guess I can do whatever now because people know this thing that I was ashamed of. So if there's something that you're ashamed of, I would say write about it, because nobody has to be that. You don't have to be ashamed. And you don't have to publish it. You don't have to even try. But it can be for you at least first. So.
It was interesting how your subjects were very heavy. They were applied to kind of fear, but they were what we all are familiar with, I think. But it ended with some humor. I mean, it was like I think I'm specifically thinking of cats. And it was like to have this, but there was a humorous.
Yeah, you gotta have some hope.
Yeah. But that was nice how that came.
Thank you.
That's good. Yeah.
Do you try to set aside time to write, or do you just write when the inspiration hits you? Or both?
Well, so I try to just like sit down and do it whenever I can. But I've stopped worrying so much. Like you might hear like, oh, you have to get up, right? Have you guys heard this? You have to get up at 4 in the morning. There's that chart with all the writers who got up at 4 in the morning and wrote for 3 hours, and you're like, I'm never gonna do that. And I'm more likely to be still awake at 4 a.m., so I'm never gonna do that. But I find that like prose writers, like if you need full paragraphs, maybe you need to write every day. But I write a poem a day in April every month for National Poetry Month. A lot of people do. And then sometimes I do it more, and like 3 are good. So it doesn't prove anything that I'm doing it, except it's sort of like exercising the muscles, I guess. I don't know. I think whatever works for you is okay. Like that's with every answer really. Just whatever works for you. Don't listen to all the other stuff. Just... We're done.
Freedom through indifference.
Not indifference, it's just like embracing all of it, right? Like everything goes at the podium. Everything. Oh, that was a noise.
We're gonna knock this down.
I know, right? I feel like this thing, I want to be like this, right? Like, because these wings, they were behind Kat's head the whole time she was reading. Like, yeah.
I mean,
There's a reason the camera's over here.
Oh, I guess I just. All right.
well, thank you guys.
Thank you.
All right, well, thank you very much for coming. And Kat has some books up here for sale. Please put your phones back on so that you hear a phone call that comes in. Thank you very much for coming, and we will resume this in spring.
It was really good.
Very